Yo, 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 yo. Pronounce it like the letter. Don't say it at all. It's your boy S, and this is BARZ Wrestling Media. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the channel. Hit the notification bell for more content. Coming up next, we talk about all the wrestling controversial news that's been going on for the past few weeks leading up to WrestleMania, after WrestleMania. We discuss Monday Night Raw, AEW, and a bunch of other things. We gonna get into it. We got a special guest, my boy Jay Stylez. We about to talk about it. Coming up next, BARZ Wrestling Media. Yeah, it's your boy S.
VO got that sound, boy.
About to stack up them commas. We back. Yeah, got a special guest with me, the homie Jay Stylez. I feel like I've known this brother for like 10, 15 plus years. The wrestling historian himself. You know what I mean? So we've been trying to do this for some time now, man. And then finally I got you on the show, man. So let's talk about it, man. Like, what's up with all this WrestleMania stuff? What's up with Monday Night Raw? What's going on with all these things, man? It seems like everything is all over the place right now.
Yeah, it's crazy, boss. You know, with the post stuff of Monday Night Raw. The thing about it is, traditionally when Vince McMahon was in control, we had full control of WWE. The Raw after WrestleMania was like the biggest draw, the hottest ticket, in the city that WrestleMania was hosting. It felt like more fans were more intrigued on how Triple H, Paul Levesque, was going to redeem himself to the public eye after what had been reported as a failure. But according to the Pat McAfee Show, when Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson appeared on Tuesday's episode versus Monday's episode, which was live inside of the Las Vegas convention in the West Suite of it, the attendance for WrestleMania was not actually the best attendance. It was the best attendance in the West Coast since the Levi Stadium WrestleMania, which was Roman Reigns' first true main event card. Where he and Brock Lesnar wrestled, then Seth Rollins cashed in the Money in the Bank, and we saw what happened there with that. So those numbers, if you're going to compare being out in the West, that was the best attendance compared to that. But as far as the physical aftermath of it and the actual matches itself, only 6 matches actually had a B plus to A minus to A rating on ESPN, Bleacher Report, as well as CBS Sports that covered it. USA Today gave WrestleMania overall a C minus grade. C minus.
What I
And
tell you, I said the
USA
same
Today
thing, right?
has been covering WWE since the very first WrestleMania.
Yeah,
The very first one.
yeah.
And it's shocking. I was surprised in the conclusion of when Paul Heyman came out on Monday Night Raw and we saw Braun Baker jump over the barricade and spear Roman Reigns, and then Seth Rollins hitting CM Punk with a curb stomp again. That was kind of predictable on that part. But the Braun Baker, to most fans who didn't pay attention to the NXT side, didn't know that those two had been talking for over 18 months in NXT to the main roster. You know, it wasn't surprising. What was surprising how they did it, but not doing it, if that makes sense. That's the thing about that got me. The whole Busted Open radio segment with my man Dave over there in Sirius XM with Bully Ray, Tommy Dreamer, Mark Henry, and now you got Natalia over there, a part of the team now. And then it's gonna be crazy. But he had every right to rant he had every right to drop the F-bombs um from Sunday night to Monday. And he kind of toned it down a little bit on Tuesday, but then he retorted how he felt after he received The Rock's Twitter message and Instagram message, and then he said it's an open invitation. Come on to the show anytime you want. I want to really talk to you in a panel discussion about what exactly is your role with TKO. Why weren't you there? What impact would you have had, truly had, and versus the fan perception? How are you handling this in your capacity? Are you really more of a on-screen personality with this title? You know, because you got a lot of publicity when they announced that he was going to be a member of the TKO board through Endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, it was a lot of publicity, not just WWE coverage, not just ESPN coverage. This stuff made worldwide news.
Yeah.
So, you know, he dropped I mean, Dave had a lot of, with Busted Open Radio, the man had a lot of valid points about how he felt.
Mm-hmm.
If it was me, if I was a mainstream podcaster, hell yeah, I would go off. Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But to the magnitude of it, in which he took the path in which he taken with it, I don't know if I would have went there. If I had you as a co-host and I went off like that, I would hope as my co-host, you know that what brought it out. You know, it's not just feel the raw emotion as a fan, passionate about pro wrestling versus sports entertainment. And I think a lot of fans after last year's WrestleMania in Philly, they were expecting pro wrestling. They weren't expecting sports entertainment all over again. They weren't expecting to go back to what it already was. They wanted to continue the momentum of pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm.
That's where I think the animosity, um the attitude, if you will, because you know, let's face it, man. In 2 weeks I'll be 50 years old officially. 2 weeks
Really?
from today, I'll be 50 years old. Yep,
Wow,
I'll be
man.
50.
Blessings, bro. Blessings, bro.
Thank you, appreciate it. I can say I've been spoiled as a wrestling fan since the 70s. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
to 2025, I have been spoiled, but I don't take shocking endings to matches or finishes. I don't go for days, for weeks, for months. Ah, fuck WWE or fuck AEW or fuck WCW. Because I remember when WCW dropped a lot of balls once Hogan turned heel. NWO faction was formed. Everybody was on NWO for a minute. Then it started getting stale because then you had Rey Mysterio, Conan, El Parker, all the luchadors formed this faction called LWO, right?
Mm-hmm.
They felt like, man, you know, it's getting stale over there in WCW. You know, it's still like the same. It feel like a revolving door. But WWE was already doing the same damn thing with their champions.
Yeah.
They just didn't have as many factions going
Right.
on,
Right.
but they was the revolving door of champions. Because one minute you had Triple H champion, one minute you had Stone Cold champion, next minute you had The Rock champion, Jericho, Kurt Angle, Brock Lesnar. You know, Booker T was in the mix. You know, so everybody got a chance at it until Chris Benoit, Rey Mysterio, um, Kurt Angle again. You know, then then a few years down the line we progressed. We got Edge getting it. We got Orton getting it. We got Undertaker keep going back and forth. Then we developed Batista. By that time, WCW had already uh, closed down. It wasn't even, and when Vince McMahon announced he had purchased it, and fans lost their mind, fans didn't even care anymore that WCW was done. You know what I'm saying? They had totally. It was like, okay, WWE about to take off because now they acquired the roster of WCW.
Mm-hmm.
But everybody thought that WCW the brand was still going to stay alive.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody even after it was announced, and you never saw a WCW programming again, nobody cared. So this is what's going to happen 6 months from now. It's still April. It's not even May yet. Okay. By the time we get to Survivor Series, people are going to forget what happened at WrestleMania. Globally, I would say 80% of the global population that watches professional wrestling will have completely forgotten how disappointed they were in WrestleMania. Why? Because they're going to be focused so much on John Cena's retirement that it's not even going to matter.
So do you
That's
think?
the magic of pro wrestling.
Yeah. So let me ask you this: do you think that this was done because they know that's going to happen in long term, like long term effect that John Cena like is going to make everybody forget about what happened at WrestleMania because of this
I don't think
revenge
he's going to be
angle?
responsible for it. I think Cody is. When Cody reclaims the title, all is going to be forgotten. All is going to be forgiven.
So you
Although
think?
Cody got booed,
Mhm.
but Cody got booed because they wanted him to turn heel. Why do you want this? What bothers me about the fans, the
Mhm.
IWC community, not so much the WWE fans, just the IWC that's attending AEW, WWE, that's so adamant about wanting Cody Rhodes to be heel. Why? He was only heel in WWE as that undashing Cody Rhodes.
Mhm.
His father, the late Virgil Reynolds, aka Dusty Rhodes, was heel before Dustin and Cody was born.
Mhm.
When he was tag team partners with Dick Murdoch. God rest in peace, Dick Murdoch, Trevor Murdoch's father.
Mhm.
You know, um, I tell people Cody Rhodes does not have the persona in the United States to be a heel like he did in New Japan with the Bullet Club.
Mhm.
He doesn't. He just doesn't. They said, well, Cody was a heel in the indie circuit before he went over to New Japan. Was he really? Or was he more of an anti hero?
Yeah, I mean, you could argue that. You could argue that if you think about it. You know, you could really argue that he's more of an anti-hero or whatever. You can definitely argue that. Um,
He wasn't
but
even a heel in Ring of Honor. He was not a heel. He
yeah,
was an anti hero.
mhm,
Brandy, his wife, she was more of a heel than he was.
yeah,
She's always been a heel. Really, when she wrestled,
hmm
she's always been. But
hmm
I don't see it fitting. I mean, the only way Cody Rhodes, this stage, as he's approaching 40 years old, being a heel, is if someone like Kevin Owens, someone like Drew McIntyre, um, leaves. Because he's not going to be the top heel if he goes turns heel. He won't. You got Rusev back, Macaulay Black, aka Aleister Black. We don't know which version we're gonna get of him. Is he gonna be an anti-hero? Is he gonna be a full-fledged heel? We don't know which version we're gonna get. We know what we're getting out of Rusev. Miro, we know what we're gonna get. I'll tell you this about that name. I don't see him keeping Rusev in WWE. I see him getting to use the name, his birth name, Miro.
yeah.
I
I would.
see
I
him
was
getting to use
surprised.
that name.
I was surprised when he finally made his return to WWE. I wasn't surprised that he came back to WWE. I was surprised that he wasn't using the name Miro because, like me and you spoke about it a few days ago. We spoke about how when they make their return to WWE, they're going to be able to use their original names before they even came into the company. So I honestly thought he was going to come back as Miro, but it seems like he's kind of like Rusev and Miro put together. Like he's kind of
Yeah,
like,
that's what it says. It's like a combination of both.
uh huh,
But if I was a betting man, which I am, I'm a betting man.
mm-hmm,
Under this 2 year agreement, that I honestly don't see that first full year he carries the name Rusev. If they're going to bring Lana in like they do on the Legends contract, she's going to be making appearances. Somewhere along the line, there's going to be an angle where he comes out and say, "I'm no longer preferring myself with Rusev."
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be because he loses a match, whether they have him Intercontinental Champion on Raw, or they have him United States Champion on SmackDown. Although he appeared on Netflix Raw, they did not say which brand he was acquired to or he was signed to. So he's a
Mm-hmm.
free agent in the WWE.
Mm-hmm.
He's able to go to both brands. And a lot of people don't like that idea. They was like, what's the point of the draft if wrestlers can flip back and forth the brands? But here's the thing. On the woman's side or the men's side, you win king or queen of the ring, you get to choose which championship you're going after. Same thing
Right.
with Money in the Bank. You get to choose which championship you're going after.
Right.
Just because you're on the roster of Raw and you won Money in the Bank doesn't necessarily mean that you want the World Heavyweight Championship that Jay Uso is currently winning. You
Right.
may want to go after John Cena.
Right.
If John Cena never won the belt, would you have gone after Cody? If you were a face, would you have gone after him versus going after Jay Uso?
Right.
Which would have made more sense from not so much from a televised storyline, but from a pure wrestling perspective.
Mm-hmm.
What would have made sense to you in your character arc development and being given the chance to wear the belt as a champion?
Right.
What would have made sense as your dance partner?
Yeah. I
So
get it.
that's why I laugh. I laugh when I see people commenting in your show, about I can't stand it. It doesn't make sense. I was like, give me a break. Give me a break, man.
Yeah.
Because as you said, I'm a historian. I'm old school.
Mm-hmm.
So I remember, boss, when UWF and NWA had that Starcade Chi-Town event where they were merging titles,
Mm-hmm.
right? The only title, which was crazy to me, why they never thought of this to this day. And I hope one day I run into Ric Flair and ask him this: why, when you were champion, did Jim Crockett and Bill Watts not have you wrestle their champion? And to be the true, so they were already merging. They had already bought it. Why not just merge the championship?
Mm-hmm.
They did that with the WCW International Heavyweight Championship versus the WCW World Championship. It still belong within the company. Either way, you did that with Sting and Iron. I'm sorry, Sting and Nikita Koloff,
Mm-hmm.
which that was dog. Do you remember that match? Did you even see that match on VHS?
I probably did, but I probably was too young to remember it. But I definitely
Okay.
remember Nikita Koloff though.
Sting was the UWF television champion at the time,
Mm-hmm.
and Nikita was the television champion.
Mm-hmm.
He had just beaten Iron Anderson, for who um it was a stellar match.
Mm-hmm.
It was better. It was better than the scaffold match between the Road Warriors and the Midnight Express.
Wow.
That's how good it was because Nikita was doing things that was so similar to the Best of Seven series against Magnum TA in just a 35-minute match against Sting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm saying this, as we're recording this, I'm saying this to your fans, to your listeners, and everything, that when you tell stories and you worry about who should be doing what in WWE versus who should be doing what in AEW, right?
Mm-hmm.
Take for example in AEW, Tony Storms. With her, how
Mm-hmm.
you know, um, whether she's gonna go, She did go over to New Japan. They just didn't talk about it. She did wrestle. She did defend the AEW Women's Championship overseas a few times.
Mm-hmm.
But then, they don't give her the same recognition as they do Mercedes Moné being the New Japan Strong Champion, the TBS Women's Champion, and all the other titles she has associated with New Japan.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, hmm. But nobody's saying why is she going over there. What does she have business going over there? But now that the New Japan uh collaboration with AEW has expired, and they working out a deal with WWE, are these WWE fans going to complain about um New Japan wrestlers going to SmackDown versus Raw? They supposed to be exclusive to one brand versus the other. You're gonna have the same mindset, the same belief that you should be stuck to one brand. If you're drafted to one brand, you should be going after championships and solely that brand. I feel that's a ridiculous thing. Storytelling is storytelling in professional wrestling,
Mm-hmm.
not just sports entertainment. Um, you need variety. I mean, if you don't have variety in your storytelling, your booking, the product begins to get stale, or the growth and development of a talent. Since wrestling is a business about talent, if I'm advertising on my television shows this particular male or female superstar, and there's an opening over in the other side for a potential, you know, title drop, or you claiming the title, whether it be now that the women have the mid card titles over in WWE, why should it matter if a raw woman superstar goes over to SmackDown and challenges Chelsea Green for the Women's United States Championship, or if um Piper Niven comes over to Raw and challenges Lyra for the women's intercontinental title. Why should it matter that this person was signed to SmackDown and she challenged a Raw superstar? It's still a title of the WWE. There's still
Mm-hmm.
a there's still a intellectual property, so to speak, an independent contract intellectual property of WWE. So what
Mm-hmm.
difference does it make?
So why do you
And
why
it's
well, not to cut you off. So why do you think that the fans be taking this thing so, because it's kind of like tribalism within the own company, like for example, like what you just said, like it's kind of like, they're creating tribalism within their own company that they idolize. You know what I mean? It's not even outside tribalism, it's within the circle, because a lot of times, like, WWE fans are so like iffy at times. And I'm not saying that they're the only ones. All wrestling fans have their ways, even the AEW fans. But what I notice about the WWE fans is that they're I don't know how to explain it. Like, they're kind of like they're they not used they don't they like what they like. They're not used to adjustments, like things here to put there. Like, they're just always like, this is how we want it, this is the way it need to be, no ifs, ands, or buts.
it started it started because of the Montreal Screwjob.
Mm,
The Montreal Screwjob was the opening or the awakening of the wrestling fan. We had the internet, we had chat rooms back then during the
mm,
Montreal Screwjob. We didn't have podcasting the way we had it now. We had video blogging, or vlogs. Now you have full fledged podcasts. You can go on TikTok. You can do something and upload it onto Facebook Live. You
mm,
can do things and upload it onto Instagram. So the internet wrestling community has given WWE fans the ability to feel like they have free reign with um First Amendment rights to speak their minds and feel like Well, I buy the tickets. I purchase the merchandise. I pay for the Peacock subscription. My voice needs to be heard because I'm I'm the consumer. And if it wasn't for me, if they know that WWE is a public trade company through TKO Endeavor, that if I don't support the product, their stock value goes down. That's not the case. That's not the case, unfortunately.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and because they believe this within the fellow IWC, it's taking life of its own. And if it was no IWC, WWE fans and tribalism would not be as paramount or alleged paramount as it is, like it is today. It's like a bad weed in your grass, or poison ivy or ivy vine that's not just irritating to your skin, but irritating to your system as well. And I think because of the shock value still that wrestling fans grew up in the Attitude Era or Ruthless Aggression Era, has still that they still haven't gotten over that dry spell of Brett being screwed over by Vince McMahon. And I think now there's like these storylines don't make sense. Why did you give us this and you ended it like this, where it would have made more sense to end it like this? Now, in a lot of cases, the fans do have a legitimate case. Case in point, but you're not on the board. You're not a corporate sponsor. So the brand itself needs to remain intact to be recognized as a global, as a global brand instead of just a national brand or worldwide brand. Let's think of it like this, right? We both grew up. What's your favorite athletic apparel?
My favorite athletic apparel, um, I would say,
Did you choose Nike over Under Armour or Adidas or
I'll probably choose Nike
okay?
over Adidas. Although I will say, I feel like Adidas, because I play a lot of basketball. I will say
Mm,
like Adidas is probably the better balling shoe
mm,
as far as footwear, basketball. But
mm,
as far as style, like dressing when I get ready for work or whatever, I would say Nike has the upper hand in that. Although Adidas definitely have some nice sneakers to wear, because I got a pair of Iversons that are crispy. So I would still pick Nike over Adidas when it comes to that aspect though.
okay.
Yeah.
Now you see where I'm going. You see why I asked that question, right?
Mhm.
Adidas has been out longer than Nike,
Mhm.
right? Adidas started off as a track shoe and a
Mhm.
soccer shoe, a
Mhm.
soccer and track shoe, right?
Mhm.
When Nike came on, Nike was a running shoe before they got into the basketball and the tennis brand. Well before they developed a cleat for football, American football versus European football known as soccer,
Mhm.
right? But the fact that Adidas was out longer, it was not recognized as a global brand the way Nike is. The
Mhm.
same thing with WWE, right? WWE has been out longer than TNA, and TNA is not a global brand, but WWE is a global brand. But a lot of people prefer AEW over WWE.
Mhm.
And then as far as the tribalism aspect, some WWE fans prefer watching only Raw versus watching SmackDown, or they may watch NXT and Raw versus SmackDown, or they now that we have LFG and Evolve, they may watch um again NXT, Monday Night Raw. They might not watch LFG on Sundays because I got this things better to do. I catch the replay. That's if you have A&E subscription. I catch it. I catch the replay, and then you could go on Tubby and you could watch Tubby Evolve for free. You right? And I don't have to pay for it. I don't have to get a subscription for it. I can do that. They may not like SmackDown because they feel like, oh, it's not enough talent on SmackDown, or they show more men's than they show the women's. Where Raw shows an equal amount of men and women support, just like NXT does. So it's the travel level aspect pertaining to WWE and the brand. It could be a lot of variables, and to be honest with you, I don't even know what the formula is to why. I'm just speculating that this could be one person's formula versus another person's formula. For me, personally, there are times where I forget that SmackDown is on, honestly. And that's because I'm if I'm home, or they're not in my area and I don't have to go out there and shoot backstage photos of the wrestlers, but they're in the DC area. I sometimes forget that it's on because I'm busy. But then I can catch the replay because I have I already have it set to record on my DVR anyway. And then 9 times out of 10, I go on Instagram, I go on TikTok. People are posting comments. Oh, I can't believe this happened on SmackDown tonight. Oh, and it's like, it's not even a thing where it's like I feel like, oh, I wouldn't have done that if I was booking, if I was Bruce Pritchard or Michael P.S. Hayes or Jason Jordan or Tyson Kidd or Shane Helms, whoever it is that's producing these matches, whether it's the women's division, the tag team division, you know, you gotta let the product be the product at the end of the day. Like for a long time, us growing up, the battle between Coke and Pepsi, right? Coke came out with different flavors, trying to beat Pepsi. Pepsi came out with different flavors, trying to beat Coke. All right, I remember the one time in the '80s that Pepsi legitimately beat Coca-Cola when Pepsi Clear came out. When Pepsi Clear came out, it put Coca-Cola to shame during their 100-year anniversary period. They couldn't. It took Coca-Cola a good minute to bounce back. No matter what they did in the can designs, no matter how many different flavors they try to put out there outside of cherry Coke, using Max Headroom as a spokesperson for cherry Coke, they could not beat Pepsi for a good minute. And then when Pepsi had Michael Jackson, the Jacksons doing the Victory Tour, promoting this Pepsi with Alfonso Ribeiro as a tap dance kid and everything, promoting the drink. And then they had Webster. They had all these celebrities promoting it to make it better. Same thing in WWE. They people ask like you guys are people ask in the comments in your other podcast, your live stream, why we got to settle for Travis Scott? Why we got to look at Travis Scott? They were saying the same thing about Logan Paul in the beginning, right? But now Logan Paul is more of a sign act to the WWE, and people still hate him, but he started to grow on them. People starting to accept that this dude is pretty legit,
Yeah, you
right?
know what? You know what it is with Logan Paul, I, and I and I said it a few times on TikTok. Like
Mm-hmm.
you cannot deny Logan Paul's been putting in the work. That's why they felt so comfortable with putting the U.S. title on Logan Paul way in the beginning of his career. Like he legitimately showed veteran like veteran like instincts,
Mm-hmm.
and he's
But it
only
was too
been
soon. It was
yeah
way too soon. It was way too soon for him to um take the title off of Rey Mysterio. And but he still needed a title push. Not more so now than he did after only three or four matches. Then get a title push and defeat Rey Mysterio. They only have legitimately 3 title defenses before he dropped to the LA Knight. To me, that was I get what you're saying, bars on that, and I'm with you. I just didn't like the fact that they pushed him for a title run too quickly. That's the only drawback I got with Logan Paul. Everything that he does, he's like that. He's not that golden goose, but he's that shiny new toy that you like. I can add this. I can make him do this. He can do that. it's like he's that, like how it was when Brock Lesnar came on the scene.
Mm-hmm.
Out of Ohio Valley. You're like, Brock is the next big thing. Paul Heyman kept saying he's the next, but Paul Heyman didn't really come up with that term. Jared Briscoe did
Oh
when he
wow.
was when he was scouting him at the University of Minnesota. He
Mm-hmm.
was telling Vince, "I found your next big thing." And then when they had him, they had Paul Heyman do the scouting report of his
Mm-hmm.
keeping track of his performance in Ohio Valley. They were like, yeah, this Gerald Briscoe said, Paul, this guy's gonna be the next big thing. So he took that idea, that moniker, and made it part of the gimmick when Brock first came on the scene. But
Right.
that's how they feel about Logan Paul. He's the
Wow.
next big thing.
Wow.
Outside of Braun Baker, they making Braun more. People say they're making him more like Goldberg. They not, because
Mm-hmm.
Goldberg used the spear to set up the jackhammer.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't use the spear as a finisher. It was a signature move to set up the jackhammer.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish that Braun outside. I mean, he's like his uncle. He's a freak of nature. He's a genetic freak because he got that unparalleled speed to get around from ring post to ring post and just spear you outside the ring. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wish he had he uses the spear as a setup move to a finisher. That's the only thing. Like when Scott start using the camel clutch
Mm-hmm.
as a Steiner recliner, I felt like, all right, he's doing, he's working on lower extremity. He's doing all these things to set it up. I mean, it made it make sense. That's what I want to see from Braun Breaker. I hope with Paul Heyman, he does that as because in my opinion, Braun is the next big thing over Logan Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I want to see in professional wrestling, particularly with the WWE, I want to see going back. If you're going to revert back to a play out of Vince McMahon's playbook,
Mm-hmm.
I want to see more longer, compelling storytelling, and maybe they can't do it because of the commentary. Not so much, not taking anything away from Michael Cole, but Michael Cole, I don't think he's surpassed Jim Ross
Mm-hmm.
by any means, but I think he's right up there in conversation with Jim Ross. I don't think Pat McAfee will ever touch Jerry the King Lawler, as a color analyst. But he has built a lane in the year and a half to 2 years he's been in WWE on the main roster from NXT. He has built his own lane as a color commentator, but
Mm-hmm.
he's nowhere as good as Jerry the King Lawler was on color commentary or play by play like Jim Ross. Michael Cole, he's the voice, but he ain't the goat. I'm sorry, he ain't the goat. Jim Ross is the goat, and Jim Ross, believe it or not, he when he was in Mid South UWF, I knew something was going to be great about him
Mm-hmm.
when he got over to WCW before WWE, when it was still WWF. They gave him an opportunity. I felt out of all the wrestling commentators that we grew up on, the one guy I felt they did not never gave a fair shot to was Tony Schiavone. WWF, WWE never gave Tony Schiavone a fair shot. I don't know if it was his thing because he was still doing minor league baseball at the time. I don't know what it was. Or as he once said in an interview, best didn't like his accent. He wasn't calling wrestling. He was calling it wrestling, and he didn't want to hear that. I don't know what to be. Knowing how Tony Schiavone enunciated his words down there with the Crockett, I find out believable but unbelievable at the same time. But I wish that they that element of Vince's playbook of longer storytelling because you had that big pay-per-view draw that would con- that would conclude the match, and then the final that stamp of approval is over will happen either on Monday Night Raw or Thursday Night SmackDown or Friday Night SmackDown. You knew it was done. You know, that's what I miss. That's what I want to see come back. I want Paul Triple H Levesque to take that play out of Vince's playbook, but put his own twist to it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not knocking Triple H for his creative approach at all, like a lot of fans are doing. He's again, we're all human. He carries it's a lot of pressure day after day with writers, producers, getting, on call with the wrestlers or face to face with the wrestlers, show after show after show, trying to get everybody on the same page, how they're going to do the match, how they're going to finish the match, how they're going to shoot the promo.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of work. I don't care who you are. I mean, if you a basketball guy, you just said you play basketball. Oh, where do you rank Phil Jackson as an all-time great coach? Where do you rank him? Is he the
What?
GOAT or he among the greatest coaches?
Man, I mean, honestly, because I grew up watching Phil Jackson, you know, I can't, I can't say I remember a lot of the other coaches. I remember Phil Jackson so much. I mean, I remember Rudy Tomjanovich because he coached the championship Houston Rockets. I remember him. Um, of course, I remember Eric Spoelstra because he coached the championship Heat teams.
Mm-hmm.
Pat Riley, people like that. I mean, honestly though, the most memorable one I that it really sticks to me the most,
Mm-hmm.
it was probably Phil Jackson because he coached he coached my he coached the Bulls and got championships. Then he went on and coached the Lakers, who is my team, and got championships. So I feel like to me personally, I would feel
Mm-hmm.
like he's my goat. He's in my goat conversation as one of the best coaches because I can't really recall all the other coaches besides Rudy Tom. I can't really recall anybody else. You know what I'm saying? Because I was like
Yeah.
young. I was young as hell, so I just can't. I can't really recall. But that's just my opinion, though.
Okay. The reason why I asked you who's your GOAT in coaching because it comes down to the same thing, right? Phil Jackson had to deal with a lot of personalities, both from the Chicago Bulls and the Los Angeles Lakers, not just Kobe and Shaq.
Mhm. Go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying the reason why I asked you that question about the coaching
Mhm.
because Phil had to deal with a lot of personalities. He
Mhm.
had to stroke a lot of egos. The same thing with Vince McMahon. As much as people say, well, Vince was, he's a puppet master, he's a puppeteer, he could tell people what to do. But if he wanted to sell, he wanted to reach that billionaire status, which when he finally did, he had to stroke a lot of egos. He had to calm the storm before the storm destroyed some things. Destroyed the foundation, which is the WWE as we know it today. Um, and the same thing with Triple H.
Mhm.
He's just doing it his way.
Mhm.
We got so accustomed to the way Vince did things. A lot of us didn't like Vince. A lot of fans didn't like Vince. For whatever reason. Some people felt he was a sexist, a chauvinist, prick. Some people say he was a racist. Whatever the case may be. But you watched his program, you supported his product, you
Yeah.
bought the merchandise,
Mhm.
right?
That is very true.
So
Very
are
true.
you going to because Triple H fumbled WrestleMania 41 that you're going to stop watching WWE? And if you do, you do. But I feel it's ridiculous. It's petty. It's stupid.
I don't
It's
think.
it's
Not to cut you off. I don't think nobody's gonna stop watching WWE. You know what I'm saying? I doubt that. And my reason being is that people are always going to want to know what WWE's doing next. So
Mm-hmm.
I can't really say people are going to stop watching it. They might say they're going to stop watching it, but they're not going to stop watching it because as long as there are two top promotions within the wrestling industry that is exchanging wrestlers at a rapid rate, no one is going to stop watching anything. Whether it's AEW or WWE, nobody going to stop watching anything because of the
Nah.
fact that they're going to be trading wrestlers back and forth. Like, what the IWC has to understand is, and I keep saying this, is that these wrestlers off cameras are not enemies. They don't hate each other. They're playing on screen personas like they hate each other, but off camera, they're friends. They're
It's only a
friends.
few. It's only in WWE. There literally a handful of male wrestlers that hate each other.
Yeah,
And the women's side,
I
we
think
talked
it's
about
more
this.
in the
You asked
women's.
me, you got me?
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, I was saying that I
Okay.
think it's more. I think more. There's more women in WWE that don't like each other
Yeah.
than there is men,
Yeah,
though.
that's what we were talking about that. We were talking about that in the chat at the DM between you and I
Yeah,
about the catnipping, if you will, or
yeah, pettiness. Yeah.
and um and it's kind of like the law of attraction, the law of nature for women versus men. The men, we men being men. If one dude flexing, he claiming he the alpha of all of us. Yeah, another man was like, what the hell are you talking about, man? What?
Mm-hmm.
Prove it. And women are the same way, but they just go about it differently, but it's similarities. But I think what it is because you brought up about Charlotte, and I don't really refer to Charlotte as Charlotte. She's Ashley to me. She's Ashley Flair, spelled FLEHIR.
Mm-hmm.
That's that's who she is to me. Her government name. Charlotte is a personality, it's a character.
Mm-hmm.
Ashley, like Ronda Rousey, they hate the attention. They crave for the moment, but they hate the build up to get to that point where the attention is on them to deliver a great match or handle a storyline to be compelling as a fans to be invested to buy tickets or to watch the pay per view. They hate that. They
Mm-hmm.
hate that type of attention on them.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to go out there, perform, give the fans the money's worth, prove why they are who they are as far as being considered the goat or the best or the queen. You know, but Ronda Rousey being considered still to this day the baddest woman on the planet, even though she lost to Chris Cyborg in the UFC. And then, WWE had her drop the belt and get into it, with Becky and Charlotte and all them. But at the end of the day, these women, they have a right to fight among each other because it took a long time for the entire community to get behind them, to start that Give Diva a Chance movement on back on Twitter before it was X. To start that before to get to the point where we had the triple threat main event at
Mm-hmm.
WrestleMania in MetLife, you know,
Mm-hmm.
before we had Charlotte putting on a stellar performance at AT&T Stadium, where she came down in homage to her dad, the way he came down to Shea Stadium, in the helicopter.
Mm-hmm.
Um, people have to understand that the women in particular they understand it, but it's more about power, and I don't mean physical power. I mean power in recognition, power in being on the billboards or being on the different WWE production trucks, um, being one of the centerpiece opening credit videos of Raw or SmackDown. NXT, the women in NXT, that's truly kayfabe. Those women, they love each other in NXT. But
Mm-hmm.
Raw and SmackDown, the call up to the main roster, oh man, it's what I saw at Elysian.
Mm.
I'm gonna talk about it a little bit for you, bro. But I need you to step your game up in your podcast. I need you to get out here when they come into Jersey. I need you to earn your credential rights and do like Malcolm Muscle asking those open ended questions. I need you to do that so
Oh
you could get the
nah,
scoop as well.
oh nah. That's what I plan on doing because next month AEW Collision and Ring of Honor Death Before Dishonor is like a 2 day event. So I'm there. You know what I mean? I'm there. I'm supposed to be going with my kids, but my wife trying to retain my kids from going because she
Mm-hmm.
thinking the kids are going to be all over the place. So like, but most likely I'm going to be there regardless. I got to be there
Mm-hmm.
because I got to capture that content. I got to ask these questions with the fans. I got to get interactive with them, my whole mission as far as Bars Wrestling Media is the interaction with fans and the wrestlers, you know what I mean? I had a thought well, go ahead.
You got to start somewhere.
Mhm.
That's the perfect place to start down in Ring of Honors, and that side
Mhm.
because you got that gives you preparation time. That if you are among the blessed fans in your home state of Jersey for SummerSlam, um, you gonna have a ball. If you get SummerSlam, you can get to ask questions at SummerSlam. Oh,
Yeah, I'm trying
compared
I'm
to
trying
WrestleMania.
I'm trying. Like I said, I'm gonna have my tickets to AEW Collision and
Hmm.
AC, and I'm at tickets to the Ring of Honor event. That's gonna be my opportunity to really get in and see, like, interview, fans and talk to people and get footage, and then eventually, do like you said, do and just try to like
Mm.
these things out to these other promotions and see like if I could get into the press conferences
Isn't
and
there a
all that stuff.
promotion in your area though? Isn't there an indie promotion that does show house shows like twice a month?
GCW does shows, but the thing about it is that I never know where GCW events like happen because the promo I never catch the promo. They're right in GCW does shows in Atlantic City all the time at the Showboat Hotel. They do it all the time, but I never can catch them. Like
Okay.
GCW does it, and another promotion was down here not too long ago too, and they were doing it, and I'm just like, dang, but where's the promotion? And I follow these companies on Instagram and on TikTok, and I still don't see nothing. So I'm like, what is going on? Like, if I could just get in contact with somebody that's in their PR or wherever, like, you know what I mean? Like, yo, I do this and that. Like, how can I get in and do interviews or whatever? That would be great, you know?
Um, I want to talk about something that you been asking the rest of your TikTok people,
Mm-hmm.
and that's the wrestler Jeff Cobb.
Mm-hmm.
And I did Google about him, and there is a bidding war, a legitimate bidding war going on with AEW and WWE. The WWE package, because the internet community knows who he is. If you have access, you watch New Japan through YouTube. You know who he is through that. Um, the U.S. fan base overall, North American fan base overall, don't know that much about him. So WWE's pitch is he goes to NXT first
Mm-hmm.
or TNA, and then after he builds up his popularity, then they advertise it as this hot free agent acquisition on the main roster.
But hold on, wait a minute though. He's been on TNA before, so it's like I don't understand. He was on
Yeah,
TNA.
but they're looking at it from a perspective since WWE is partner and get ready. You might as well say it's an acquisition. You might as well say that TKO Endeavor owns TNA.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a crossover promotional thing. They acquired it. They're just letting them keep everything intact the way it is. Because I mean, and if he signs, it makes sense. Do it that way. Cause I don't. He would dominate. He would be more dominant than Obafemi in NXT or Moose in TNA. If he, I mean, if he was just straight in NXT, he would just strictly dominate. It would be nobody to really give him a run for his money. Based on after you asked me to look, cause when you mentioned his name, I had never heard of him until but the Fatus, all the different Fatus out there, I've heard of them. The only Fatus that I'm skeptical because I'm still doing a lot of research, and I didn't really get a chance to ask Jacob. I didn't get a chance to ask Zilla. I didn't get a chance to ask the Usos. Are the Fatu twins that's in um Women's of Wrestling, are they legitimately Fatus? Or is it just a name that they're using?
I don't
Is
know.
that just a wrestling stage name they're using? The twins.
I know who you're talking about. They not. I don't even think they're with Wild Wrestling anymore. I think they left. I think they're trying to come onto NXT. From I seen a post that was made with them a few weeks ago, and I think they're trying to come to NXT. They're definitely trying to make a move to either WWE or AEW. That's what I know for sure.
Yeah, they are trying to come in. I've heard more momentum towards WWE than AEW
Hmm.
through NXT. Um but I was like, are they really related to the Fatus and the Noise, and are they really related to them? And I've gotten an answer. Because it's like it would be and the reason why it's like I think I shared it to you on TikTok in your message that they're talking about the possibility of if they came in, the Fatu twins came in, that you could build a old woman bloodline with Naomi, Nia Jax. You bring in Ava as like she be the female version of Paul Heyman, which I can't see happening. She doesn't have the persona for it.
Yeah,
She's she does not have the persona for it.
yeah,
Um, but surprisingly, when I shared with you, I found out about Dakota Kai being half Samoan.
yeah.
That
She is.
that messed me up because I had no idea. I didn't even know she was from Australia.
I knew she was from Australia, but I didn't know the Samoan thing until somebody talked about it on Twitter, and they said that she was half Samoan. So now and now I understand with her whole persona. But I could see her. I could see her. She's pretty good at talking, so I definitely could see her being like a wise woman. You know what I mean? But still
It,
able to
it
wrestle.
depends. It yeah, because this depends. Like, is her legs more messed up than Bailey's, or are they about the same? Because Bailey's knees are messed up too, you know. But Dakota Kai's not wearing tights, you know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, versus Bailey. Bailey's wearing tights to protect her knee,
Hmm.
so um and then there's a speculation because Bailey actually is from San Diego or San Jose area
Hmm.
that she has some Samoan or Polynesian heritage to her as well outside of Mexican.
Yeah, I knew about her Mexican heritage. I knew about that. Well, I didn't know about the whole Polynesian
Yeah, there's
thing.
speculation that she may also have Polynesian Samoan heritage as well.
It wouldn't be surprising. It wouldn't be surprising if she did.
No, I wouldn't. It
You
make
know.
Bailey's make a little bit more sense than the shocking surprise about Dakota Kai.
Hmm.
Um, now with AEW. I did not see all of AEW yesterday.
Yeah, I didn't see all of it yet, but I'm going to try to watch it, a little bit of it tonight before I go to bed.
I did see the segment with MJF and the Hurt Syndicate. That was comedy.
Mm-hmm.
That was they. Bobby Lashley got into the car that MJF had purchased was really Tony Khan's car. Everybody know that.
Yeah.
That's his car.
So, all
And
right.
he
So,
drove off.
yeah. One more thing, and I want to get your take on this because somebody had
Mm-hmm.
mentioned this to me on TikTok.
Mm-hmm.
So, what if what I mean, the next surprise that MJF brings is Cedric Alexander. So he uses Cedric Alexander to get into the Hurt Syndicate. What if that's the next surprise? Because if you notice the gifts that he keeps giving to the Hurt Syndicate, he's wanting up the gifts. So the whole theory was that somebody brought up to me was what if, right, they
Mm-hmm.
they had a segment and it was this big box, similar to remember how Sting was in a big box and they was trying to give a gift to
Mm-hmm.
Seth Rollins, and then they open up
Yep.
the box and there goes Sting with the hammer with the bat or whatever, similar to that.
Yeah.
So they get a big box. Cedric Alexander's in the box, so he's like, I got this special gift. I know you guys are going to like it. I know you guys are going to like it. Trust me. I know this is it right here. And then next thing you know, they open the box and there's Cedric Alexander, and they're shocked. They're shocked to see Cedric, and then they're like, you know what? Thumbs up, and then he becomes a part of the Hurt Syndicate with Cedric Alexander. What would you think about that?
That's been thrown out there. Um, that has been thrown out there as a possibility.
Mm-hmm.
Could it work? Would it work? Will it actually happen? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
The way Tony Khan books things, he does things that he does things out of left field you never see coming, and that's kind of a good thing. That separates AEW storytelling from WWE.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a very likelihood possibility. And it could work if
Mm-hmm.
done correctly. The one thing I don't like right now in AEW is bringing the Young Bucks back into the fold into the tag team division. I understand the tag team division is a little sloppy right now in AEW, but I don't think the Young Bucks is the answer to fix it.
Right. Right.
No, I really don't. I don't think it's the answer to the Hurt Syndicate. I don't think it's the answer to FTR. And even though FTR is really supposed to be breaking up, I don't think it's the answer to, a lot of these tag teams breaking up, you know, the Acclaim, um, FTR. There's speculation that Private Party may be breaking up because they almost broke up before, but they
Yeah,
didn't.
they did. They did. Yep. You're absolutely right. Yeah.
That was during the time when Matt Hardy was in the picture. He was. And they was, it was a very visible tension there. People thought that's all story. No, that was really some backstage heat between the two of them.
Yeah.
And that's the thing about AEW compared to WWE is like they can't handle the backstage heat. They let it get so far out of hand that after like Double or Nothing or All In or whatever pay per view you have, you got these massive fights breaking out back in the locker room or back in the in between the curtain past gorilla position. You
Mm-hmm.
know, all because you did a move wrong or you crossed the line in the promo.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to sell a ticket. I'm trying to get people interested in our match. What the hell are you worried about?
Mm-hmm.
Tony Khan gonna pay you regardless. But
Mm-hmm.
I think what's happening when AEW was formed and they announced that Kenny Omega's EVP, the Young Bucks are EVP. Cody Rhodes is the EVP. Chris Jericho is the EVP. All right. Oh yeah, all these wrestlers as EVPs, executive vice president, in different divisions. All right. Then you had Brandy Rhodes as senior vice president of the women's division.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all these wrestlers, Brandy Rhodes was the only one who held it down and kept everybody in check on the women's side. The men's division, tag team, whatever, it was like an asylum.
Mm-hmm.
And it still is. It's still an asylum on the men's roster compared to the women's side in AEW.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's pointing the finger at Tony Khan. Tony Khan, y'all making Tony Khan too much of a fall guy and a scapegoat to the internal problems with Kenny. That's why Kenny Omega dropped the EVP when he got the bronchitis.
Mm-hmm.
He dropped it because it was too much stress for him.
Mm-hmm.
The stress was getting to him of being able to navigate and, behind the scenes where he wasn't on television, sitting down in a gorilla position with Tony Khan, producing these singles matches where the Young Bucks wasn't doing jack shit in the tag team division. They was hogging the spotlight. That's why a lot of tag teams rolled out.
Mm.
Went back to the indie circuit.
Wow. Wow, I didn't know
That's
that.
why that's why I like cause remember when Jericho had the inner circle
Mm-hmm.
and Jericho had besides Santana Ortiz, LAX, he had another tag team with him.
Wow, I didn't know
And
that.
now everybody left. Everybody left.
Yeah.
Because the
That.
Young Bucks was dominating the spotlight too damn much. Do you know how long? Remember how long when they first started? It took that they were supposed to drop the tag team titles to the Lucha Brothers, but
Yeah.
they refused to drop it to the Lucha Brothers.
Yeah. Yeah. I
They were
did
supposed
not
to
know
drop it to
that.
LAX. Yeah, they were supposed to drop it to LAX too. They refused to drop it to them.
Wow.
They used their EVP status to keep the titles.
Wow. That's crazy. Wow. You learn something new
That was
every day.
that's the main reason why the tag team division. That's the main reason why the tag team division has shrunk so much in AEW.
Wow. You learn something
Think
new every
about
day.
why the best friend, because the best friend's supposed to win the tag titles too.
Mm-hmm.
The best friends were supposed to be the first ones to dethrone the Young Bucks for the tag titles,
Mm-hmm.
and then the best friends were supposed to lose it to SCU,
Mm-hmm.
and then SCU was supposed to lose it to um to Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus
Mm-hmm.
before he
Jurassic.
became Kill Switch.
Yeah, Jurassic Express. Yep. Mm-hmm.
It's Young Bucks had it. They had Young Bucks written all over why they weren't doing it, dog. Because Young Bucks, I keep telling people, Young Bucks are not that good. They not. That's why they better than the Usos. Get the hell out of here.
Mm-hmm.
The Young Bucks is just, you know what the Young Bucks really are? They are a younger, faster version of the Rock and Roll Express.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they are. They're just a younger, faster version of the Rock and Roll Express.
I would.
The
I
Rock and
would.
Roll, the super kick, the Rock and Roll Express never used the super kick. They used the double drop kick as a signature move.
Mm-hmm.
That's really all they are. And people say, how can you say that? I say, I'm an old school. I know things you don't know. I see things you don't see. I can compare things with the naked eye that you would never catch
Mm-hmm.
as a wrestling fight because you looking for spots. You looking for them to do the wow moment. I'm looking for them to. I know when the spot is coming. What I'm looking for is the build up for it and after. What
Mm-hmm.
is the aftermath build up of doing the double super kick?
I
What's
agree with you.
you know?
I agree with you.
They don't cut great promos. Mark or Nick do not cut great promos whatsoever.
Mm.
Because when
I
the Rock
never.
and Roll Express was tag team champions in NWA, Ricky Morton did all the talking. Robert Gibson could not cut a promo.
Yeah, I see what you're talking about. I just really never paid attention to it. But now that you say that, I'm going to really start zoning in and like trying to pinpoint these type of things, so then that way I could be able to discuss it on the show. Like it's definitely a few things that I need to look out for and see. But you definitely right on that. Like the way their promos are cut is nothing. Like every now and then they wow me with something, but for the most part, nah, I don't consider them like as far as top 10 promo guys as far as a tag team. Nah, but
I
but
wouldn't
I
even put him in my tag team Mount Rushmore. My tag team Mount Rushmore of the new era, Young Bucks are nowhere to be found. I got the New Day, I got the Street Profits, I got the Usos, I got FTR. That's my Mount Rushmore of the new era. My all-time tag team, that wouldn't even make my honorable mention all-time tag team.
I
My
can't really say
all-time
who's
tag
Mount Rushmore. I can't really say who's Mount Rushmore. I haven't decided
of
yet.
tag teams, my tag team Mount Rushmore, no one, absolutely no tag team will take them out of the number one spot. Hawk and Animal.
Legion of Doom. Yeah.
Hawk and Animal. My number two varies. Right? If you ask me just to give you a flat out number two all time Mount Rushmore, it's gonna be the British Bulldogs.
Okay.
Number three will be the Hart Foundation.
Yeah, that was my team. Heart Foundation, especially as a kid. Heart
And then number
Foundation,
four,
Legion of Doom.
number four will be all time. Number four will be the Steiner Brothers.
Another one that I grew up watching. Yep. Yeah.
Now, if you're talking about per decade, you talking about the '90s. I still got Legion of Doom one because they were still dominant in the '90s. I will put the Steiner Brothers two. Um, I would put Samu and Fatu, the Head Shrinkers, the Samoan SWAT team is three,
Okay.
and I will put Tully and Iron both as the brain busters of just the Four Horsemen at number four for the '90s, and then in 2000s, the early 2000s that is, I will put Edge and Christian at one, Hardy Boys at two, Dudley Boys at three, and World's Greatest Tag Team Charlie Haas and Shelton Benjamin at four.
Okay.
And people say, well, why don't you have Harlem Knight in there? Why don't you have Doom in there? Here's why. Doom and Harlem Knight are so similar. So
You
much
mean Harlem Heat?
similarity.
You mean Harlem Heat?
Harlem Heat and Doom has so much similarity.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like a mirror reflection. The only significant physicality difference is the build. It's the build. Stevie Ray was taller than both Hacksaw and Ron Simmons, and so was Booker. So was Booker T. But what Stevie Ray was, he was the Hacksaw Book Street because he's older than Booker T anyway. So he was, he was more the set pace, if you will, while Booker T was the finisher. So the same thing. Braun Simmons was up and coming. Braun Simmons was the finisher of the Doom, with or without the mask on. So how can I pick between the two? Well, there's the styles were very similar too. They were both brawlers. They weren't, Booker was a high flyer, but it wasn't. He was still a brawler more times than he was a high flyer. There was no real high flyers between Ron Simmons and Hacksaw Brooks Reed. So I mean, that's why like I can't put them in over anybody in the '90s. whether it be WWF, WWE, or WCW. Just can't do it. And we get to the 2010s. New Day wasn't even the early 2010s. New Day wasn't even established. Neither was the Usos.
Yeah.
So at that time, the tag team division in WWE was kind of flatline. They were there. You had champions, but nobody really paid attention to them. I mean, you had uh not Eminem, because Eminem was a good tag team. Joey Mercury and John Morrison. But you also had um what's that tag team? They cruiserweight. They were cruiserweight. They was compared. JBL compared them to
You talking
the Rock
about
and Roll Express.
you talking about Paul London and
Yeah, that's it. Paul, I couldn't remember it. And
Paul London
Hendrix.
and Brian Hendricks. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, I know what you're
they
talking
were
about.
good. They
Now
were
they were
good,
real
but I
good.
wouldn't. But the problem is they didn't get the attention. So that's why I was like, I can't. The mid, right before the Usos came on the scene in the New Day, that's vacant. I got it. That there's no Mount Rushmore for that particular time period
Yeah.
because it was you had. I mean, TNA, even TNA's tag team division was kind of dry at that time.
Hmm.
So it was you really didn't have much to go on. Now where we are now, oh man, for that number one spot, man,
Hmm.
that number one spot, dog. I don't know who to put there, and the reason why I say it because New Day and the Usos, I don't know.
Yeah. Hold on one
I can't
second.
even say who's one A, who's one B.
Hold on.
I simply can't.
Hold on one second. But go ahead, get back to what you were saying. Go back. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, with the New Day and the Usos for one A, one B in the current decade, it's oh, it's so hard.
Yeah.
It's so hard to call. And
Hmm.
then even with the Street Profits, I mean they may have only had the belts a few times,
Hmm.
but overall their body of work both in NXT and the main roster, you could put them as a contender for Mount Rushmore in the current decade. Regardless of the fact they have had many title runs compared to the Usos and the New Day, they have done they have done a lot in storytelling in the tag team division. They have really held it down where they was on Raw and SmackDown. I do not care for the. I don't care if you call them the War Raiders, the Viking Raiders. I don't care for them.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying they're a terrible tag team. I just don't feel like they fit WWE. I don't feel the character presentation, the style fits it, but it's the character presentation that doesn't fit WWE. And I'm not saying these dudes because I had the pleasure of meeting them, and I didn't say anything bad to them. I respect their work. I didn't say I think they should be in AEW because I really do believe that the War Raiders, the Viking Raiders, will fit. And I really meditated. Even if I was in the shower, I was thinking about this. Hey, damn, they will fit way better in AEW than in WWE.
Hmm. I see
It's
your
just their
point.
style.
I see your point. I definitely see your point. I feel like if they was to be able to let loose a little bit, because I seen their body of work in Ring of Honor, and they were way different tag team in Ring of Honor. They were more loose in Ring of Honor. I feel like in WWE they very much restricted,
Yeah,
as far as what their capabilities are. But in Ring of Honor they cut loose. They cut
yeah.
loose. So I see your point when it comes to War Machine. I definitely see your point. Yeah, I definitely do.
I like to. I would like to think if I grew up the way Paul Heyman grew up in, I mean, I kind of did, But if I was like with NWA when they kept every time NWA came in town before they became WCW, that um if I was hanging out doing things, whether it been concession programs, stuff like that, just to be tied into back then as a kid and come up through like again like the way Paul Heyman did, and now approaching 50, and I was tied into WWE, instead of as a contractor, I would want to have control of the tag team division.
Mm-hmm.
I could work with Jason Jordan. I could work with Tyson Kidd, whether it be the men's or women's side. But as a senior to them, I can see things that will make more sense to do it this way. I don't think having Devon there as a producer on the tag team side working with them, I don't think it helps. It might help the Street Profits,
Mm-hmm.
but it doesn't help any other tag team. It doesn't help. It does not help the New Day. The New Day has reached the pinnacle point in their tag team career. They don't need no damn producer to produce their matches for them. They can do it. They can do it on the fly.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the only thing that's hurting the New Day is the fact that they keep letting Xavier Woods be the weak link.
Mm-hmm.
But between him and Kofi, they still let this man be the damn weak link. That's starting to kind of bother me because I've seen his body work in TNA when he was
Consequences 3. Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I felt like when he was in the X division, and he was going up against um Shark Boy, it was really Chris Daniels, in the mask. I mean, he was giving AJ Styles hell in the X division,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, damn. Then you had Jay Lethal in the mix. Him and Jay Lethal was tag team contenders.
Mm-hmm.
It was like they. It's what is it because he's playing it safe because he has a PhD and he doesn't want to really risk his brain cells getting severe concussion doing the same stuff he did in TNA. I don't know what it is, but he's not taking. If he took more risks and started trying to be the liability, then yeah. Um, that's my thing about that.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Kofi is being asked to do. He's still being asked to do too much as the most of the time the finisher or the pace setter. I think he's being asked too much. Now, if some point Street Profits versus New Day and unify the belts again, my safe money would be on the Street Profits.
Mm-hmm. That'll be a good
My,
match. That'll be a good match.
I will put my money on the Street Profits to unify the belts
Mm-hmm.
versus the New Day. What? Because here's why I say that if that dream match ever happens with it for the unification, it benefits the Street Profits to expand their tag team legacy before they decide to give Montez full his single title push that he so desperately deserves.
Mm-hmm.
He deserves a title push, and then Angelo Dawkins does too. But the difference is Angelo needs the farthest he's going to go is a mid card champion. He's not world champion material as a single wrestler,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not. I think it's not his personality because he has that personality to be a champion. He just doesn't have that personality to be a world champion,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just on the mic because he kills it on the mic. What I mean by personality wise, I mean like in the ring, one on one, your personality, like from selling to the big comeback, it ain't there. And maybe he doesn't have it as a single wrestler compared to as a tag team wrestler. You know, because I think Montez covers up limitations, and I think Angelo's just too afraid of his potential at this point. I'm like, dude, you've been up on the main roster for a good minute. You gotta come out of your shell,
Mm.
and I think
Yeah,
that's
I agree
he's
with you.
holding himself back.
I agree with you. Yeah. Well, this conversation was great, and I learned a lot. I learned a lot today on this show with you, breaking down certain things or whatever. And I definitely think we should continue this more often.
Yeah, we
So
should
I'm
have. It
going,
should be a 5 parts too, because it's a lot of stuff we got to go. We even got to go back to that Black History segment we did when I
yeah,
gave you the insight of the segregation of
yeah,
professional wrestling, particularly in the Mid Atlantic area.
mm-hmm,
Not so. I mean, it, it's so much stuff out there regarding segregation in professional wrestling that still exists today, but it's not as damaging as people try to say it is. I mean, we
yeah,
got to get back to that Booker T Swerve Strickland, which is I think that could be part two. Um, it definitely needs to be touched on some more because at this point, after being at Mania, after being around Booker T for Stand and Deliver, I don't agree. I don't agree with Swerve 100%. He has some valid points, but I don't agree with him. Booker is who he is. Who he is. He's earned the right to do what he's doing and taking the liberty of when to speak versus when not to speak.
mm-hmm. Well,
That's
we definitely got to talk about it then for sure. Like we definitely got to break bread with that. But I appreciate having you on the show, bro. Like I learned a lot today. Uh, I'm going to talk
you
to
see in
you.
the background that those two monitors back there, those HP monitors that I had to bring
Yeah,
with me. I
yeah,
had to actually dog. I had to put them in a. I had to pay a fee to fly out here with those things.
yeah.
Yeah, because you can't because they wouldn't fit my regular bag, so I had to buy another bag and pay. The fee was only like $30 to
Mhm,
put both of those monitors in.
mhm,
It wasn't bad. My job they're gonna reimburse me for it,
mhm,
so I'm not worried about it.
mhm. Oh wow, that's what's up. But yeah, we definitely gonna talk more. There's a few ideas I wanted to talk to you about as well, as far as podcasting and everything. But we could talk about that, off camera and things like that. But I appreciate your time, your patience, and everything for being on the show. This show will definitely be on the tube. I also, like I said, I'm going to make sure that you get your own personal copy of this. I just need your email so then that way I could send you
Yeah,
a
I'm gonna
zip.
send it to you. I'm gonna send it to your TikTok. I'm gonna send you
Yeah,
my email through TikTok.
yeah, and I could send you the zip file so then you could be able to distribute it however you want. But I appreciate your time and patience, brother. We talk almost every day now. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So like,
yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely gonna hit you up again. Yeah. So this is Bars Wrestling Media. We'll be back with another one. It's your boy S. Salute.
Please like, share, subscribe.